Hello everybody, and I thought I'd make a video about jungle val, and the main reason I want to do this is because the last time I trimmed my jungle val, I had lots and lots of people asking me, what's the plant in that one tank? Looks like grass. And I wanted to just trim jungle val. I tell people I give it the lawnmower treatment and they look at me like I'm crazy. But let's take a closer look. This is my super red pleco, and there's a few yellow shrimp left in here, but it's mostly my red coals, and every once in a while you'll see a real good one every once in a while. But that's what's in here as far as shrimp go. And the super red bristlenose plecos, there's a bunch in there, but they all hide in the val and back there behind the sponge filter. So jungle val is one of those plants where it definitely enjoys an enriched substrate. It spreads by runners. It's a heavy root feeder. It spreads by runners. You see all those little stems connecting. Those are called daughter plants, the little runners. And then those will form their own roots. And then you can break off the plants with the roots, the runners with the roots, and move them, and they'll be their own plant. That's how you propagate them. And I wanted to, another reason for doing this video is I might go 3 or 4 months at a time without selling a single bit of jungle val, but in this last batch of orders I shipped out, I sent out probably 8 to 10 orders of jungle val, and let me tell you, if you ordered jungle val, I hooked you up because I saw all these orders coming in, and this plant was really overgrown. All this jungle val, it was all the way up past the pleco caves. Not completely as thick as that, but there are runners. This was all runners. This whole area was covered in it. It was covered in it all the way up to about there. Then it went back, and I got it all into almost a straight line. So I cut out a whole bunch of jungle val, and this is getting long. I don't like my plants to reach the surface of the water, and that's what jungle val does. That's what it looks good, because a big long grass plant just waving in the current. Like, I got a lot of current in this tank with all the plecos. Then you can see where some of the runners got detached and up out of the water. Of course, it could be some of the ones I missed. I probably knocked them loose when I was harvesting plants to send to people. And this is what it looks like, and these will grow. These are little runners with little baby plantlets, and they're not taken off because they come up out of the substrate, and they need those roots to be in good rich substrate. So, show you here. So each little set of roots is its own little baby plant. There's one, there's one, there's one, there's one. So now you can really see how they spread. Now if that stays down in the substrate like that, instead of just staying little tiny stunted baby plants, they will turn into big, huge plants. Well, let me tell you, for me, I don't know why, but I have a heck of a time getting this established. In this tank, I planted it in there. It didn't grow or spread, but it didn't die. It just sat there for like a year. I was like, oh man, this val's starting to spread. My buddy on YouTube, fellow YouTuber Valley Fish, Jeff over there, we was doing this plant trade, and I didn't even ask him for it. And I was like, I'll shove some of these in this tank and see what happens. And it's been the Jungle Val tank now. It took over everything. I don't even have moss in here anymore. Just Jungle Val. Now, when it comes to keeping these guys, this plant and shrimp tanks, you probably don't want to keep it in a tank where you gotta cull a lot. So like a low grade tank or a Skittles mixed tank or something where you're not in here. You can, obviously you can, it's algae wafer day. You can bait a lot of the shrimp out in the piles and you can get the bad ones out. I might get bored and get these yellow ones out one of these days. But this is supposed to be a red cull tank, so I'm not super worried about that, to be honest. But back to the Jungle Val. You're not gonna want to have shrimp in here that you gotta be culling a lot, because they like to get in there and you're never gonna get them all out, because there's tons and tons of shrimp in here. But now I'll show you what I mean. And personally, like I said, I don't like my plants hitting the surface, because for me, it makes my never-ending battle with duckweed 10 times worse when there's plants growing at the surface. And Jungle Val is, when you got a bunch of it like this, it's kind of messy. It's always shedding. And if you look, there are little bits of spiral val in here too. Corkscrew val, I think is what they call it. Or spiral. Yeah, there's lots of it in here. It's just all intermixed. I didn't realize there's two different plants in here until they started getting bigger and growing. It took a year. But Jeff Valley Fish, his val's like that too. I think there's another. You can see how some of these little rooted, there's a spiral. There's more spiral. Look at this one. That come unrooted. That's a cool little plant. Little baby spiral. Okay, I'm gonna show what I mean by the lawnmower treatment, trimming Jungle Val, and then I'll explain what that does. So this is my other tank where I have Jungle Val, and it is a 29-gallon Panda Guppy tank with some Florida Sunset Crips. But it's still getting established in this tank, but you can see these leaves, they just keep growing, and they can get feet. I mean, there's leaves going from over this corner to that corner, and I just trimmed everything that was touching the surface just a couple months ago in here. And then when you trim them, it makes them spread like fire. So the last time I trimmed this tank, that's as soon as you trim it, it'll be weeks and you'll see it spreading like crazy. I'll have runners coming all the way out to here, and what's left will get thicker and thicker because there isn't the great big ones blocking out the light. So there's some bigger spiral val too. Alright, I'll show you how I do it. It's pretty simple. Alright, I'm by myself, so filming this is going to be really tricky, but I'm going to try. So I like to go about halfway up, and we're just going to trim them all so that they're level and look good. It's like giving a haircut. Hopefully this turns out to be watchable. And I do have heater cords, and air line in here too. I gotta be careful not to cut when I'm doing this. And if you get some too short, it's alright. It don't care. it will grow back. That is for sure. And all the cut pieces will just float up to the top. I'll grab some of this part where the current is knocking it down. I'll cut those a little short up front here. So thanks to all the people who got Jungle Val this last week, I was able to get, this thing was getting really wild and out of control. So there's one back there. See if there's any long ones we missed that are still attached. Alright, now I'm going to clean up this mess. I'm going to get all that with my hands in the shop vac. I'm not going to film that, but then we'll check back and close out the video and see what it ends up looking like. And here's what we ended up with. Every time I do this, I love it. Especially when I get them all straightened up in a straight line, and pretty awesome plant. Really awesome plant. And now that I chopped the top off, it is going to spread like wildfire. It always does. I've heard some people say it has something to do with the plant hormones, but I think it's because these leaves, they get so long, they just keep growing and growing and growing. You cut all the top of the leaves off, they're not growing. They're not getting longer, and so then that spreads. Just like any plant, anyone who's into gardening will know, when you get something new or you want it to spread, you cut the tops off. Transplant's easier. But so it's the same principle, I feel like, with these guys. It's a really, really unique plant. Really unique plant and really fun and super easy. You just get, if you want a great big huge Jungle Val garden like this, just get resigned to the fact that you're going to have little bits of val leaves and crap and you're floating around in your water at all times. So, and it's not the best plant to have in a tank that you need to cull, and because you're not going to have to rip all this stuff out to cull shrimp or to reset a shrimp tank or do stuff like that. This is put it in a tank and leave it for years and years and control it however you see fit. And that's what I've done, and it's been a fun plant to keep. So, and yes, you can trim it. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.